Hello, and welcome to another episode of Shampoo and Booze. This is episode number 23 at shampooandbooze.com.
Hi, everyone. How are you? Okay, because this is still a new podcast, I feel like I need to just kind of set the ground rules for what we're doing here.
Yes,
so we don't waste your time or our time. So we have a vacation, a rental on Airbnb.
Yes.
We had bought a house. We renovated it specifically to rent on Airbnb, and it's been a success for us.
Yes.
We bought a rental, which we are currently renovating now. So we talk about both those things. We bought both these rentals as using profits from our eBay business. That's something else we do.
Yes.
And each week here we describe the trials and tribulations of our process.
And here we go.
Okay. Last week, we mentioned that we didn't charge guests who spilled barbecue sauce
yes.
in our
oven.
And we just talked about how, that there's a decision each host has to make. Do they make a big deal out of it, try and get some money,
right?
Leave a bad review, confront the renter,
right?
Or do you just kind of write it off as just wear and tear? And so we had some people that were like, you should have definitely charged them,
yeah,
or left them bad reviews, or that was their point of view,
right? Sure.
To me, I think it could be a difference between Airbnb hosts, people who live in an urban area,
right,
and maybe people it's like us that are more country.
Yeah, and there's reasons for that. We have a place that we're trying to make, we're trying to promote not just our house, but our area. So we feel like we want to make an experience. It's not like we're in New York City.
Right.
Where New York City is the draw.
Right. Well, I mean, I feel like it's kind of like, who's hungry? I think people who live in many urban areas, like, they can afford to just say and do whatever they want, because there is a constant stream of people coming. Like, we talked to some people who have rentals like in LA or it's New Orleans or Nashville, where as soon as they open up their home, it just gets booked. I mean,
they have no issue being booked every single night of the month.
And so if someone does something wrong, they can afford to be like, you did something bad. I don't want you here again. I'm going to get some money from you. I don't care if you get angry and never come back, because there's a million other people behind you who want my place.
Right.
So where we live, it's pretty popular.
Yeah, it's popular.
But we definitely are hungry. Like, we're hungrier, I think, than its renters in some case, where, we're trying to really make our place nice, attract people.
Yeah.
Like, for us, if we book 20 nights in a month, I mean, we're psyched.
We're just like, hooray.
Right.
Yeah. And part of it, too, is, like I was saying, you're not just renting our house, like, you're, as, like, a crash pad or whatever. It's like, you're renting that house to have an experience. So we're hoping that people have, like, an overall good experience.
Right. I mean, it's for us, we're hoping that we can start getting some repeat customers.
Right.
Because we live in a rural area, we're hoping that a city, it's next to us, about 2 hours away, that people see us as like a weekend retreat, so they're having a good experience.
Yeah.
So as soon as we were to start confronting them and making a problem, then they'll be like, forget that. And I guess its question is the problem big enough to where we don't want them back or not?
Exactly.
And that's the thing. And some spilled barbecue sauce, not a big deal for us.
I mean, the rest of the house looked great.
Right.
So it's not like it was trash. It was like that one thing.
Right. And then taking this a step further, I think it's interesting between people on Airbnb that rent in an urban area versus maybe it's like us in a country area.
Right.
There are some people that rent on Airbnb in a city, and they actually don't even own the apartment that they have.
Right, they're renting it.
Like, they rent it from someone else.
Right.
And then they re-rent it on Airbnb.
Which is so crazy to me.
So for them, it's not about like what we're trying to do. They aren't building equity.
Right.
They aren't doing anything like that. For them, it's just pure profit.
Right.
And so they may even hire a management company and a cleaner to do all the work.
Yep.
I mean, they may even just be collecting checks.
I mean, in a way, that's really smart. It's just so different than what we're doing.
Yeah. So, when it comes to problems, they aren't really looking at people. They're just looking at, how do I keep cramming people in here
Right.
and making its money? And if there's a problem, I need to claw back some cash,
Yeah.
and then I'll just keep filling it.
Yeah.
And again, it's just different models, you
Right.
know? Like, anytime I read articles about Airbnb, especially as recently, often it's about the kind of the heads butting between
Yes.
urban areas that have that don't have a lot of rental space for people to live.
Yeah.
And then you have Airbnb, where it's getting very popular and people are renting out their places on Airbnb.
Right.
And it really is an interesting kind of, like, that's what it's about.
Exactly.
And our story is a little bit different. Like,
Right.
we're in an area where there's lots of places to live. Like, if you want to come and live where we live, it's cheap to buy a house.
Yeah.
Rent is super cheap. Like, you can rent a house for like $600.
Yeah.
You know?
Like a whole 3-bedroom house.
Right, with like an acre of land.
Yeah.
You know? Because in America, rural areas have really been emptied out,
Right.
because no more
There's no
manufacturing
work.
and all that stuff.
Yeah, there's
so
no work.
It really is a different it's model
Yeah.
between those two things.
Yeah. And I mean, the whole point for us is to build basically, like we talk about, a mom and pop business where we are building equity, and it's interesting to us to own a property. Like when we're cleaning the house, sometimes I think to myself, this is what I've worked towards. I'm a house cleaner. But then I think, wait, I own this house. Like, it's
Right.
not like I'm cleaning other people's houses. I'm cleaning my house. I'm
Right.
getting all the profit, you know? So it feels like, you know, you're doing the work, but it's for your own life.
And as people rent, each month we're able to pay the house off,
Right.
and make a bit of money, and sometimes more than a bit of
Right.
money. But I really do think that's important to understand. You know, unlike the person who rents an apartment in an urban area and then re-rents it on Airbnb, and again, it's all about cash flow versus equity. Our model so much. It's different. It is about that mom and pop idea of a business.
Yeah.
And we actually talked about this in our other podcasts. I'll link to it on the blog post. But where our business is purposely, we're keeping it small and manageable.
Right.
You know? Like where it's all about sweat equity and not a lot of risk. I mean, really.
Right, low risk.
Low
Yeah,
risk.
Exactly.
This isn't meant to be a hands-off business.
Right.
Like, it seems like it's very popular these days, like the 4-hour work week and like this idea.
Passive income.
This idea of where you create these businesses where everyone's doing all the work for you and you're just like cashing checks, and then you're like traveling, and I guess you're having a life that's not about the business. I mean,
Right.
our whole point of this business is that this is our life. Like,
Right.
we're not trying to fund its lifestyle. The act of running our businesses
is the lifestyle.
Is the point, right?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
and one isn't better than the other.
Yeah.
I just think that it does seem very popular, this idea of creating passive income,
Yes.
where you're not actually running the business.
Right.
It's very popular, and I guess I'm trying to do the more unpopular idea here of just like, it's okay to run
the business. Yeah.
That's okay.
Right. Yeah.
So our goal here is to buy underpriced properties that have something special about them.
Right.
You know, we renovate them, and we like to turn them into premier properties.
No, what do you mean by that?
I mean, we talk about that every week. Where instead of just going in there, spending like a week, kind of doing a quick Home Depot.
Yeah, Lowe's job.
Over, kind of like what you see on TV, where they come in and they're just like, let's put some, floating floors on and just some tile. We try and take our time and really make it something special. We buy the house because it's got some aspect that's interesting to it, and then we like make that aspect better.
Yeah, exactly.
Then our goal now is to try and pay them off quickly.
Right.
And then we're okay with that large upfront cost. You know? So we're investing its money in these things since we're creating income generators for the next 30 years.
Yep.
And that's part of the mom and pop business here, is that, we're putting all this sweat equity, and then we're building up these businesses paid off, and then these things will just make us money.
Yeah, you run the business.
Until I die.
Yes.
And, we'll own these rentals debt-free, generate cash, and, the numbers work because we're intimately involved in every aspect of the day-to-day.
Yeah.
that's why it's important we feel right now, at least, for us to be cleaning and doing all the work ourselves.
Yeah, and I feel like it just really makes you understand how you want the business to be run. Because, like, for example, we are going away for a month, and we have a friend who has done it before, but we're still going to go over it with him. There's new things we've changed, like, there's ways that you want your business run, that you know intimately, because you clean the house every time.
So, again, it's just, we just wanted to kind of talk about that because it is interesting as we're doing this podcast and hearing from different people. And they're telling us about their experience renting on Airbnb. There are different ways to approach this.
Right.
And each of us have to choose, like, what that approach is.
Exactly.
All right, so let's talk about our rental, and we call it the
farmhouse, because it is an old farmhouse.
Yep.
So Jay is really into cutting flowers and putting them on the table, which is great because I don't want to have to think about it. So.
Yeah, I mean, this week we were fully booked.
Yeah.
I think almost every single. There was one night when we weren't booked, so we had 3 sets of renters come in,
which is awesome.
And and now that spring is here, Ryan will laugh at me, but we have a big yard with lots of natural plants. Yeah. Flowers are blooming, and I just go out and I just cut flowers and little branches and stuff, and I stick them in a vase, and they look beautiful. It looks super fancy.
It does.
And it doesn't cost us anything.
Yeah, no, it's really nice.
And that's the thing about having a premier property.
Yeah. So what's funny is the next topic is moving from fresh flowers to the clogged drain in the tub.
Right.
Now, the thing about it is, look, everybody knows that when you have lots of people staying at your place, and sometimes when it's like a group of 6 women, there is lots of very long, hair in the tub drain. So the thing about these old farmhouses, a lot of times with the drainage pipes, they would use galvanized pipes, and galvanized pipes start to corrode on the inside with just, time. And so stuff gets stuck to that. The little spurs and stuff starts to just like clog up. And we noticed that the bathtub drain must have that kind of piping somewhere along the line, because just after a couple months, the drain starts to go really slowly. Now, I snake the drain every time I wash the tub, which is every time someone checks out, just to get any of the collected stuff, because you really have to do that. But stuff still gets down there. So we basically, the last time we were there a couple days ago, we plunged. You can plunge the drain. We don't use Drano or anything like that because we have a septic system, and that stuff's pretty nasty. So Jay helped me plunge the tub, and it cleaned it out. It was really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the kind of clog is farther down. I mean, I know you snake the first like 3 feet or whatever. So, but it's farther down. We have to do it like every couple months,
right,
or so, and you just got to give it a good plunge, and it unclogs.
And the secret is with the tub is there's an overflow drain so that the tub doesn't flow into the house. And what you have to do is you have to plug that up. That's the key to really create the suction and fill it up with water. So Jay helped me do that because I wasn't doing it right.
And a plumber would cost you $60 to get that done.
$60. A plumber would cost you $100.
So ideally, we would redo the plumbing of the old farmhouse, and we did redo much of the plumbing that we could actually get our hands on.
Yeah.
It's just these are things that are somewhere in the wall. So
for the drainage.
But the real way to do it for us is we just need to do a better of plunging it more consistently,
like once a month.
Yeah. So we're gonna do that.
But the great thing was, like, I was like, this isn't gonna work in my head. I'm like, oh, we're gonna have to hire someone. But we totally did it. Like all the clog came up, it started draining. I scrubbed the tub all nice. I was like, yes. We did it.
So something else, we like to meet everyone that comes and rents. So we just build it into our schedule. Normally we like clean the place and we have them meet us right after it's clean, so we aren't like waiting around.
Right.
But recently we've done a couple self-check-ins where people have emailed us and they've been like, oh, I'm not going to be there till 11 o'clock at night.
Right.
Or the schedule didn't work out. So we've been testing what self-check-in is like. So I wrote just probably like other people do, I wrote a whole little page.
It's like a paragraph.
That explains, it's the things I tell people when I show them around the house. We give them code to the house, and it's been well. So we've had a couple people stay. We've never met them. I make sure I'm communicating with them. I check up on them the next day, and it's been good.
Yeah, it's been good. I think when we first started, we were like, no way, we will never do that. But then, like, schedules do get weird where you've cleaned the house, you're totally ready, and they text you, we just left the city 2 hours away, and you're like, we have to go do other stuff, you know?
Right.
So,
I mean, and we've had such good experience with people it's renting that we now feel a little more comfortable in letting people just stay, because we've just been realizing, like, most people so far have been good. So.
Well, and the other thing too is one of the people this week, you offered to come over and, you know, check in on them and answer any questions if they needed it. So I think that was good. Like, I'll come over and say hi, and they were just like, we're fine.
Yeah.
We, you know.
I'm sure there are people hearing this who rent and they only do self-check-in, and they're probably
like, what's the problem?
And laughing at us.
But you know what? We're pretty precious about our house. You know.
Okay, so the second place we bought, and now we're currently renovating. You know, we talked about how we built the chimney, so we bricked that.
Chimney's done.
The its roof just has a couple more things. The guy has to come back. He might have already finished even. I need to go and check. But really, there's no real action on that. Basically, everything's on pause because we're about to go out of town for a month.
Right.
About to go do some jobs, make a bunch of money, and then come back.
And spend all that money.
And then spend it on
the house.
Yeah, and it's good. And it's a good thing, too, because the guy we work with, the carpenter, is busy right now on another job, so he's not even ready to go. So it's fine. The good thing is just like we've been having a lot of fun ideas that we want to do. You know, taking time isn't a bad thing. We read things, we see things in magazines, you know, we hear about things, and we've been having fun ideas of like built-in furniture and like shelves and nooks and day beds, you know.
And just like for me, I'm trying to like figure out what materials we want to use in the kitchen, and like, you know, yesterday we went up to like Habitat Restore, and like we're looking for stuff for fixtures, and it's like, if you can take time to do it, then you can get stuff cheaper.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, you can get really nice things for cheap if you take the time.
Right, instead of like, we have to buy it this week, you know?
I think the thing I like about like built-in stuff is like, instead of just the idea of just having just boxes, you know, so if you have this house, and in the house it's just like a bunch of boxes. This room, everything's just white or whatever. Yeah. And then you just buy a bunch of IKEA furniture and throw it in there, it's done. Not a bad thing, but I guess what we're trying to do is this idea of putting like shelving between rooms, building day beds by windows, instead of having like a pull-out couch where people sleep. You would build like a bed.
Yeah, you know? It could be really cool.
Yeah, and I think those are things that make a place feel thought out. Yeah, because it is. We're thinking about it now.
Yeah,
you know?
Think about it.
And then if we can do it and it's done nice, people can tell. You know?
Yeah, they notice. And they notice at the farmhouse. I mean, people notice the details.
Okay, so we're going to briefly talk about the numbers of our rental.
Yes.
We just do this because if other people are renting, we don't really see this information very much. Like, how often are people renting? How much are they making? How often do they rent their place?
Right.
I mean, those numbers are interesting, so we just thought we would just throw our numbers out there. So the way we've decided to kind of share them is like 2016, there are 365 nights.
Yes.
So our goal here is to see how many nights can we book in the year of 2016.
Now, your goal has been 200, right? That's what you'd like to get up to.
So currently we have 119 nights booked.
Now that includes
future, right?
Past and future.
Right. Some of those are from January to March, and then some of those nights are future.
Right.
It's bookings now.
So all of 2016.
So right now we have 119, and there's still plenty of the year.
The summer really needs to get booked
And I said, last week I counted, if people book all weekends like they normally do, I mean, that's 60 more nights right there.
Right.
So it gets us close. Now we just need to fill it in with weeknights.
Yeah.
You know? So this week we booked another 3 nights.
Right.
So 3 future nights.
Let's talk about what 3 nights those are, because they're awesome. So I have been thinking on Airbnb. So VRBO makes it easy to decide certain like holiday weekends and say you can only book 3 nights because we have a 2-night minimum. And I was like, I really want to do that for Airbnb too, like to mirror the same. And you can do it. You can do like these special like night minimums for certain weekends. So I did 4th of July because the 4th of July is a Monday, so it's a long weekend. And I said, you have to book 3 nights. And we booked those 3 nights.
Right. And so that's great. It's for us because we live in a place where people come on, it's vacation.
Right.
So last year it was a problem because people were booking those, but it was just hard to... It was hard. We didn't know how to make them book more than 2 nights.
And the problem on 4th of July was these people booked. The 4th of July was on like a Saturday. They booked and they checked out Saturday because they're like, yeah, we're gonna like go up to like the next town over, and we were like, you just screwed our weekend, our 4th of July weekend.
So it's good.
Know?
I think it's a new thing that Airbnb did, and they kind of hide it.
Yeah.
I had to Google it, and then I had to read about it in its forums. But basically, you can go in and set, like during these weeks, people have to book 3 days.
3 nights.
So anyway, net to you, the good thing for us is someone booked 3 nights. We raised the price because, again, July 4th is a big holiday weekend where we are. So we charged $300 a night.
It was $299, just technically, but yeah.
So, and that's verse 2 is $49 is what we normally do. So we raised our rates, and so someone's going to pay us $900 to stay for 3 nights. And she was psyched. Like, we were just talking to her.
Yeah,
and
she's like, it's me, my brother, his kids, our dog, like, it's a family get-together, and we're like, that's the perfect group for 4th of July. They want to barbecue, they want to go hiking. You're like, perfect.
That's perfect.
Great.
Yeah. So, again, we just say that because we have been experimenting with raising prices when we know things are popular, and people seem to be paying, and people are happy because they come and they enjoy the place. So, and
the other thing too is we tried to go through. I went through the calendar for 2 years, 2016 and 2017. I looked up any long weekends.
Like holidays,
long weekends, things like that.
And also where we live, there are special events specific to where we are. Things like
a triathlon,
a marathon, a bike race.
Right. So when there are like bike race weekends, things like that, I try to basically raise the price and do, for long weekends, 3-night minimum.
Right. And plus we have a Chamber of Commerce. Every town has one,
right?
But we go to the Chamber of Commerce, and they actually have like a calendar of events, and so that's a good way to see.
Yeah,
and so I can imagine if people don't live necessarily in an urban area where they're just always getting booked, and if you're more like us, where you're having to look at your schedule more and manage things more. You can look at, like, if you're in a college town, see when parents'
games are,
games,
homecoming, things like that.
Yeah.
Because it really helps you, because the point of raising the price is obviously so you make more money, but you're like, I'm guaranteed to get booked.
Right.
Like, there's no way this weekend won't get booked.
And again, I just want to be clear, because we're, very sensitive to the idea of, like, we feel like what we're giving people is a good deal. Like, we're just trying to make sure we're getting the money we deserve for the amount of work we put into our place. And we encourage other people, if you've really created a nice place,
you should charge what you think it's worth.
And invested in it.
Yeah.
You should be getting the right amount of money for it. And not under its value, your place.
And the great thing, too, about Airbnb and VRBO is you can play with your prices, too. And we've done that a lot, where we're like, what if we brought it up this much? What if I do charge $300 a night for, 4th of July? Will it get booked? Well, we're scared.
I mean, and things are
Like,
so much different. Like, we're definitely like a spring and summer kind of place,
right?
And fall. But like the winter time, I was playing. It's with it the exact opposite.
Yeah.
When we were booking 10 nights a month for several months there, and then deep of a winter time, and I was playing. It's with our prices bringing them down, like $150,
$145.
Yeah,
It's like, is it worth it to clean the house for $300?
Right.
We did do it, but.
Okay, so a couple more things on its numbers. So March just passed.
Yes.
March is not really the beginning of spring, but it kind of is. But that's when people start perking up about our area.
Yeah.
And most rentals around here, the people we talk to, they don't rent a whole lot in March. It kind of starts picking up. We had a great March.
Yep.
We grossed $3,300.
Yep.
So
that's incredible for like a month that some people are even shut down.
Yeah, I want to say we were booked 15 or 16 nights, which is great.
It's really good.
But our net profit, because I just want to be clear about that, was about $2,000.
Right.
And that's after paying our mortgage and bills. So our mortgage on the house is $1,100.
Yeah.
Which is high, but that's because we're paying it off in 15 years versus paying it off in 30 years.
Yeah, it would be half that if we had a 30-year mortgage, but we got a much shorter mortgage. And the point of us doing that is, first of all, it's less interest, but second of all, we're like hoping to, pay it off quickly.
And we only have 10 or 11 more years on that mortgage, although we would like to pay it off even faster than that. And then Wi-Fi, insurance, electric, that's about $250 every month. So it comes out to about $2,000. Once we get that house paid off, I mean, we'll get most of that profit,
exactly.
which is great. April, we already have booked $3,500
nice
of its booking, so 16 its nights, and I'm hoping we can book at least another 4 nights. There's some big chunks of weekdays that are unbooked,
and we find that when the weather starts to get nice, which it is, today is beautiful, people in the city are like, ooh, let's look on Airbnb and grab a couple nights out in the country.
Like
happens.
We have 2 people who are staying in our place right now, as we speak.
Right this moment.
And, they said, and when I talked to them, they told me this too, they're coming out specifically just to make some life plans.
Yeah,
which is great.
Yeah, like they came out from the city. They were like, we just want a quiet country place because we just need to, figure out what we're doing with our, they have, real estate and, stuff like that.
Yeah, they're just, middle-aged people and just want to have a quiet place outside of their normal life just to kind of think.
No distraction.
So that's cool. And that's fun for us, and they booked that just a week or 2 ago, so it was kind of a last minute booking.
They're like our ideal people. I mean, there's several ideals that we have, but those are the best people.
So again, for people in urban areas that are just always getting booked, I don't think they'll understand this. For us, it's great. This March and even April isn't really the high season, as they would call it, because that doesn't really start till after school's out and people start going on vacation and stuff
June,
like that.
July, August.
So for us, a lot of our energy is put into, how do we get these places booked?
I do have to mention this too. June, July, August is our very high season, the peak of the season. People, because kids are out of school, people come out during the weekdays. So I actually decided to raise our weekday prices. We had it at $199 and I raised it to $249 for weekdays because I'm like, last year we were booked almost every night in those 3 months. It was just back to back to back to back to back.
Yeah, I mean that's when it does feel like maybe how someone in an urban area feels.
Right.
Where really we're booked 25 plus it's nights where people are booking everything, and then there's just those orphan nights that are just single nights in between people. Right. Like we say, we're experimenting, and what we have to do is listen to how it works. Are people going to start to book at those prices when people stay? Do they seem content and happy? Do they feel like they're getting a good thing for their cash?
Right. The great thing is, though, we don't charge for extra people. So it's it's that price for, up to 6 people and your dog,
Cool. So to round this fun podcast out, what did renters leave behind? You know?
Yes.
This is important for us. One reason why we like to clean the house is because we like to see what people leave behind.
And keep the stuff they leave behind. It's mostly food. I'm not going to keep anything they didn't want us to keep. But the funny thing is, the last couple of renters, they left shampoo and booze, hence the name of our podcast. So there was a group of people that had up to 8 people there. And they left me a fancy 6-pack of beer and then a big growler of beer.
And they actually specifically kind of put a note and said thank you. It was like a thank
really
you.
Sweet.
It was like one of those like fancy bottles of beer from Montreal.
Yeah. It was really, really nice. And then they left some fancy like Bath and Body Works shampoo.
And then some people just left like a bottle of barbecue sauce.
Yummy.
Some hot sauce, which we love. And then some organic heavy creamer for our coffee.
It's heavy cream.
Yeah. Cream.
And then actually someone left a little bunny rabbit. It was like, I was cleaning one of the beds and I was taking the sheets off. And it was kind of funny. I took the flat sheet and I pulled it. And this bunny rabbit like rolled out onto the ground. And we wrote to them. We're like, oh, we found this little bunny rabbit. And it had been Easter weekend right before that. And she's like, oh, that's my daughter's Easter bunny. So we mailed it back to them. I thought that was cute.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a couple of voicemails of people who called in and asked questions and made comments. You can call our voicemail line. The phone number is 540-407-8486. It's also on the blog, and we will play it on the podcast.
Hi, guys. My name is Kevin. I'm a new Airbnb host trying to rent out a room in my house. And one thing I was wondering if you guys could shed some light on this is I'm getting requests from people who have who are new to Airbnb and have no verifications, other than it'll say, verified email and verified phone number, and that's it. And I was wondering what your thoughts were on accepting guests who are new to Airbnb and without any verifications or reviews or anything like that. Love the show, and thanks for taking the time to answer my question.
So the thing about our house is, we don't live there or anything. So, we feel pretty confident too. We don't live in a city. When people don't have reviews yet, it's not a big deal. There are lots of new people on Airbnb. We've never had a problem. But I do believe you can set something on Airbnb that says you won't rent to people who don't have verifications. Like, Airbnb makes you do like a phone number verification or like a driver's license or a passport verification.
Yeah.
You can require those things.
So you can make the bar very high for someone to come and rent at your place.
Right.
And so really it just depends on your comfort level. Now, if it's a room in your home, maybe that's what you want to do. It's your choice.
Yeah.
I think for us, we just came to the understanding of Airbnb is still a relatively new system.
Yeah.
It's been around for, it seems like a long time,
It's
2009 or something. Yeah. So that may seem like a long time, but it's still relatively new. And for the mainstream, we get people that rent where they sign up the same month and they book in our place.
Right. Right.
And we accept that.
Yeah.
The other thing too is, don't forget, it's not just like they book and then that's it, and then they just show up at your front door. You can have conversations with people.
And you should have conversations.
And we always do that.
Yeah.
We noticed, like, just this past week, we had someone book, and they were kind of new.
Right.
And we actually have Instabook turned on.
Right.
So they just instantly book like they would a hotel, and all they said was, coming for a holiday.
Right.
And that's not enough information for us.
Yeah.
So then I write back to them and be like, hi, this is who we are. Why are you coming? Who's coming?
Yeah.
I do it in a very conversational way, like I'm a nice person.
Right.
And then they write me a whole paragraph and they understand I'm a person and not a hotel. And then they explain, oh, it's my boyfriend and my sister and our dog. And this is why we're coming.
Right.
And then I started to get an idea of what's going to happen and what to expect.
Exactly. And if you have a room in your house that you're renting, you don't have to have like instant book turned on either.
No.
You can require like you have a conversation before someone books, and you can, if someone books and just says, business trip, and you're just like, okay, and they're not talking back, you don't have to let them book, you know?
And again, I think this is going to be a theme throughout all of our podcasts. If you live in an urban area where there's just like people streaming in and they're looking for cool places to stay at an affordable rate, you can probably set that bar really, really high and get as booked as you want to be.
Yep, exactly.
But if you live somewhere where, you know, people have a lot of choice, there aren't like thousands of people streaming in, it might not be smart to put the bar so high.
Right.
But you have to balance between how hungry are you to rent it versus how worried are you about having kind of a filter to see who's coming.
And also, I feel like once you start to book and get a few bookings, you'll start to feel more comfortable. Like, okay, these are, you know...
And, you know, as a host, you have total control.
Yeah.
You can cancel someone at any time.
Right.
I mean, Airbnb isn't so thrilled if you try and cancel like last a minute or something like that.
And they'll charge you for that too.
But if you have a bad feeling about anything, and you can call Airbnb too, and, you know, if the person is not communicating well or...
Exactly.
Hi, everybody. Eve Everett. This is a shampoo and booze, well, it's advice, because I always give advice whether you want it or not. This is about due diligence in hiring a contractor to work on your property. The first thing you have to do, first of all, you have to do it. Even if the person is the nicest person in the world, I have met plenty of nice people that are complete psychopaths, and that's what they do. They're very good at being charming, and before you know it, you have an issue. So the first thing you need to do when you have a contractor is you need to go to the state website that they say they're licensed in. Obviously, they should be licensed in the state that they're practicing in, for starters. So you would go to your state's website and just look them up and see if there's any issues with their licensing. If it's been canceled or is no longer existing, or you see that there's some multiple complaints against their license, probably don't want to hire that person no matter what they say to you, because everybody has an excuse when they're bad at doing their job. It's always somebody else's fault. So that's step number one. Step number two does not cost a lot of money. For some states it will, for some it will not. Check and see how many times that person, first, and second, you also want to check for their company or companies that they want you to sign a contract with. Check to see how many times they have been involved in a lawsuit. It is a huge red flag if you see either the individual or the individual's company filing many lawsuits. And when I say many, I'm talking if you see more than 3 or 4 over the course of a couple years, run like hell, because you do not want to hire that person no matter how good they are, because they are what I call litigious, and you never want to waste your time with a litigious individual or a litigious company. So check with your state court system. You can often do that online. If not, call locally. People tend to be very helpful at the court system, so you can find out that way. The final thing you should do is probably check on Federal PACER, P-A-C-E-R. You can sign up for that for free. If you do a search, it's going to run you about 10 cents a page, whatever they produce back. But that way you at least know on a federal level that they're not involved in anything. And like I said, sound incredibly paranoid, but you will literally save yourself 6 years of having a real pain in the butt happen to you. So it's very important that you do your due diligence on all contractors in that way. All right, guys, have a great week.
Yes, Eve, that is a good point about if you're redoing a house, about how to check to make sure that people working on your house are professional and licensed and not criminals with lawsuits and bad history. I mean, again, if you live in a really populated place and you're dealing with people that you don't know, that all that stuff makes sense. You know, you can make sure they have a contractor number. You can get that number and you can check it against databases. I get it. For us, we are doing it a little bit differently. We live in a really low populated place where everyone knows everyone. We've done a couple houses already, and we're working with people we know.
We've worked with these people before.
And we only hire people who we get good recommendations from other people we know. So like the guy who's putting on the It's Metal a roof on our house, he's a friend of the guy that's doing the brick. And
Right.
so that's really important to us, that people we trust are basically vouching for
Right.
somebody else.
Exactly.
I mean, obviously that's not going to hold up in court if like
Yeah.
something really bad happens.
Right.
But honestly, that's kind of how humans work together properly in my mind, is just,
Through trust.
trust and all that.
Yeah, so I mean, we've had great luck with working with people that we trust, and then working with people that they trust, and then like you said, the roofer. He's done amazing work. His work is great, and he's very affordable for the amount of work he's doing. So it's been good.
I mean, have we ever hired anyone by just like looking up in the phone book or online and just hiring someone off the street?
The thing about doing that where we live, they never show up. Like, I've tried to call guys that are friends of someone who they did work for down the street. And I'm like, great, want to come look at this job? And they like never show up. That's not true for everyone, but it's like, okay, so what you want to do is you say, okay, person who's doing the chimney, who do you know that does this, that you've seen do work before? Oh, this guy, he's great,
I knew him in high school.
Exactly.
I worked I think 90% of the work we've done on everything on our homes have been done by people who actually do the work themselves. So we hire a carpenter, a brick person, an HVAC, and they come out themselves and they're doing the work. They're running their own little mom and pop business.
Exactly.
So their reputation is very important.
Right.
Only maybe 10% of the work we've ever done has it been where we've hired someone and he's just kind of like the business owner who comes out and gives the estimate, and then a truckload of guys show up that he's paying $10 an hour and they do the work. Those are not the guys we normally hire, and those are the ones who I can imagine there being a problem because the business owner stretches himself out too thin, hires guys for cheap because he's cutting back on labor, and, they do poor work, all that stuff.
Exactly. Yes, we rarely do that.
We like craftsmen.
Yeah, and they're more expensive, but actually the people we were going to hire for the roof were like that. And we were like, oh, if there's extra stuff that needs to get done, can you do that? Nope. It was like, okay, great, we're not hiring you at all. So, all right. That's it for the podcast. You can check out shampooandbooze.com for any links we talk about and join the discussion on the blog comments. You can leave a question or a comment on something you heard. The phone number is 540-407-8486. We post an episode every Sunday night or Monday morning, and you can subscribe to us through iTunes or YouTube so you always get the latest episode. You can listen to our other podcasts where we talk about how we sell old stuff to fund our housing renovations, and that's scavengerlife.com. Okay, bye!